Okay, welcome to week 5. We're going to be going through Microsoft Access, which is a database program, and then we will touch on Microsoft Publisher, which is used for making uh, brochures, business cards, and stuff like that. So let's start with Microsoft Access. I'm just going to touch on the very basics of this program. There's a lot that you can do with a database program, but we're just going to focus on the basics. We're just going to choose a blank database here. As you can see, there's other things. And one of the things to notice right here is the actual file name. It actually tells you where it actually saves the file as well. So by clicking on this, I can choose to save it in a different place. So I want to save it to my desktop. We'll click OK. And you'll see it adds the extension on there, the .accdb, just like a .doc in Word or a XLS in Excel. This is your extension, ACCDB, for an Access database. So I can come in here and I can actually give it a name, which we'll just call it week 5, and then I will click create and create the database. Now I'm going to go ahead and close this first table because I just want you to see the actual program here for a second. You have your kind of shortcut menu here that allows you to choose different things. We can go by custom, table related. You can choose just tables, just queries, just forms, just reports. Whenever you create any of these, they all get put right into the pane here. You have your ribbon as before. Some of these are familiar. Sort and filters from Excel, the clipboard from pretty much everything, the find, the text formatting. These are newer, the records. We'll take a look at that once we get into the tables and your different views. Also click create and you can create all of these different things. You can create tables, queries, forms, reports, macros, and codes. We'll mostly be focusing on tables and queries in this one, just some basic stuff. If we go to external data, this is where I can import different things, export to different files. If you have stuff in Excel and want to bring it into a database, you can do so. And then database tools, we will be looking mostly just at the compact and repair function later on, but take a look at some of these and their relationships and different things like that. So let's go ahead and create our first table. So I'll come in here and I'll just choose create table. And there we go. And you can see that it comes up with ID right off the bat. Now, what ID is known as the primary key. Okay? The primary key is a unique identifier to any record. I know in Excel we called these rows, but in a database it's called a record. Anything that's put into the row is considered part of the record. Anything that gets put into the column is called an attribute. Alright, so like the ID, the name, whether you do first and last, whatever. If you want somebody's like address, stuff like that. Those are all attributes. Okay? So we've got a record and an attribute. And like we said, a primary key is a unique identifier for that record. So like if this is the ID number 1 and we call it whatever, nobody else can have number 1. Number 1 is unique. So the next one that would come up would be number 2. And we'll take a look at that in just a second. You'll see that it opens its own kind of toolbar and I can choose different types, text, numbers, currencies, yes, no checkboxes. If I go to table, it lets me change different things here. But what we're going to do first is we're going to go to the design view. Now there's a couple ways to get there. I can either click this button right here. I can click on the view and choose design view, or I can come down to the bottom here and click design view. Any way will work. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And it's going to ask me, do you need to save this table? What are we saving it as? Remember, we saved our database as week 5. Our table is within our database, so we can call it whatever we want. So I'm going to leave it as table 1. Okay? But remember, we can change the name of the table and you can change the name of the database. There's two different things here. So whenever you're doing your homework, remember which one you called, which one the database is named and which one the table is named. So we'll go ahead and click OK. And this is called the design view for the table. This is mostly just working on the attributes. Okay? So I can choose, so I've got ID as an auto number. Let's say I want to add first name. So I go ahead and put first name here. And then I have to choose a data type. Now, when I click here, there's many different data types. Some of these are pretty self-explanatory. You have text, memo, number, date and time, currency, auto numbering, yes and no, which just is a checkbox. And if you check it, it's yes. Uncheck it, it's no. There's different objects you can put in there, hyperlinks, attachments, calculate stuff, and then lookup wizard. So this one, obviously, first name, just one text. We'll put in a last name here, also be text. And for this case, let's put in, we'll do NBA players. Let's do first name, last name. Let's do jersey number, which obviously we're going to, we're going to want to put in just a number. Let's do team. So we can put a team in there. We'll also just do text for that. And for what we need, we'll do a conference. Okay. In the NBA, there's the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. So you'll have to choose which conference they're in. Okay. And to do that, because there's only two options, we're going to use a lookup wizard. All right. What this allows you to do is it allows you to select a drop-down list. So if there's only a couple options, or you don't want the user to manually input it, you want there to be a select number of options there, this is a good option for that. So I can either use a different table or query to look it up, or I can manually type them in. And I'm just going to manually type them in for this. I'll click next, and it gives me this little table here. And I'll just type in this one, Eastern and Western. Okay. We'll click finish. And even though it shows up text, now that I have this all done, I'll come over here and I'll click view. I'll go back to datasheet view. Notice that my little key right here, my primary key, is still on my ID, and it's an auto number. So the two to watch for are the ID and the conference. So let's go ahead and click here. It will tell me I need to save first. Click yes. And now our table is constructed with the attributes that we've created. So let's go ahead and put somebody in. Let's say we want LeBron James, jersey number 6, team, I'm just going to put Miami, conference, and notice the drop down here. I can choose Eastern, and notice how it automatically put the number 1 in there for me as soon as I started typing. So now LeBron James is number 1 in our database no matter what. Anytime we're looking for ID number 1, it's always going to be LeBron James. Okay? I'll just hit, if I hit the tab button, it goes down to the next row, and I can continue adding people in here. Alright, so that's going to be it for this lecture. Make sure that you understand these, and if you have any problems, please let me know. The difference between the datasheet view and the design view is very important. So be sure to play with both sides and understand what you're doing.